Let's hear more from Russell Wilson from yesterday's Dan Patrick Show on this question of whether or not he's available in trade. Here he is.
What do you make of CBS Jason La Canfora saying that Seattle had gotten calls for possible trade talks with you? Do you believe that Seattle has gotten calls?
Yeah, I definitely believe they've gotten calls for sure. I think that I think anytime you're a player that tries to produce every week and has done it for consistently, I think people are going to call for sure, and I think it's part of the process.
Yeah, but you're a franchise quarterback. You're a Hall of Fame quarterback. You're not available, are you?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm available or not. That's a Seahawks question.
That's a Seahawks question. Well, he does have some input because he has a no trade clause. So it's not like they can just send him wherever they want to send him. He's got the same power that Deshaun Watson has to put the kibosh on whatever it is the Seahawks may choose to do if and when they want to trade him, if they ever get to that point. I just there's a vibe there.
There is a vibe. I agree.
Russell Wilson.
I agree.
That we've never seen before from a quarterback franchise level with a team speaking that bluntly. Now, he can get away with it. He's kind of like Patrick Mahomes in that regard, where you can say the candid thing out loud and it's not something that is going to piss people off. Sorry, London. It's the kind of thing that is part of the overall charisma of the athlete. And Mahomes and Wilson can pull it off. I don't know that Brady could pull it off. I don't think Rodgers can pull it off. I think Rodgers is afraid to try to pull it off because he doesn't want to end up being Brett Favre level pariah in Green Bay. I think that's one of the reasons why he stays away. I think it's, again, to get back to what we were politely debating earlier, I think that's one of the reasons why he opts for subtle messages that he doesn't want the media to lock onto, because he doesn't want to start down that path of getting Packers fans up in arms about Rodgers may dare consider choosing to leave at some point. But Russell, my God, that was there's a lot there. And I think what you need to take away from it if you're a Seahawks fan is they got 1 year to get this right. I don't think he gets traded this year.
No doubt.
They got 1 year.
Yeah.
One more year to get it right.
Yeah, he's putting the pressure on him. There's no doubt about that, Mike. And, your pasta and meatballs gut has been all over this for, I don't know, I feel like you've been saying this for 3 weeks, that there might be something there. And I don't know what put it on your radar, but you've been saying it. And yesterday's quotes, yes, you say what you want. I like Russell Wilson, but he obviously showed that there's some issues there that he would like to get figured out with the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah. And if I'm a Seahawks fan, I'm not mad at him. I'm trying to be objective and disconnect myself from it and say, if I was a Seahawks fan, how would I react to what Russell Wilson said? Would I be I definitely would be disappointed. I'd be mad. I'd have that feeling in my gut that we're entering into a protracted period of not being very good, that there's issues now that aren't going to be easy to resolve. Who am I blaming? Well, maybe I'm blaming the team for not putting enough around him. And it's easy for me to feel that way if I'm a Seahawks fan because, yeah, I could be saying we should have more championships than we do, that Russell Wilson isn't the problem. Now, at some level, the quarterback's fingerprints are on the success or lack thereof.
Yeah.
But if you're not letting the guy have a say in who they bring in and how they manage the team, then he can't say it's all on him.
No, and you can't. You definitely cannot. And Russell Wilson, and this is the perfect example, too. Because like we talked about, we know what kind of coach they have in the organization. And he can easily sit there and go, listen, organization, you wanted to do it this way. I've been doing my part. We've been doing this run, basic offense, play defense type of thing. And you guys haven't been holding up your end of the bargain. I'm holding up my end. I'm throwing 35 touchdown passes and 7 or 8 interceptions every year in a basic offense and doing all that. He might be saying, hey, we tried your way. It's got to change a little bit. And I know people are going to go, well, they tried, in Russ we trust and let Russ cook, all that stuff this year. Yeah, okay. You called more drop back passes. It didn't mean they went all in on it. not from the plays I watched on film all year and everything like that. They just called pass plays. It didn't mean like last offseason they grew their offense and all of a sudden had all these new concepts and I was like, whoa, Seattle changed. No, they just went, hey, usually we run it on 1st and 10. Let's throw it. That was their change this year. And Russ was awesome because he is awesome. But like you mentioned, and we mentioned a lot during the year, the NFL caught on to what they do very quickly. And then it becomes all about the Jimmies and the Joes, and the X's and O's do nothing for them. And then it becomes all about Russell Wilson having to throw dimes and DK Metcalf, having to beat double coverages or, running predictable routes that the defense knows what he's going to run, but he's still got to get open and Russell's still got to hit him. And that's where I think Russell's frustrated, and I understand that because he's being held to a standard of, like you're saying, greatness status, and we're comparing him to all these other guys, and he's sitting there going, yeah, like I love that I'm being compared, but it's not freaking fair. It's not fair that I'm being compared because I don't have some of the things I need to compete with, Tom Brady's or the top guys and things like that.
Russell Wilson has a habit of signing 4-year extensions entering the final year of his pending contract. And one of the intriguing dynamics here that should not be overlooked is the fact that his agent, Mark Rodgers, is a baseball agent who has one football client. He's the NFL's equivalent of Tom Hagen. He has a very specialized practice.
I like Tom.
Here's how that becomes a factor. If you're an agent who has players throughout the league, or more importantly, other players on the Seahawks, or other players that may want to play for the Seahawks, may need a job, may need leverage, may need whatever. If you have other clients that are going to be doing business potentially with this team and with other teams, you can only push so far without potentially undermining your relationship with the Seahawks, with other teams. There's a limit, there's a line that you can't cross because you've got broader business interests that could be compromised if you piss everybody off, sorry, London, by driving the hardest possible bargain for your superstar quarterback. That's just the way it works, folks. That's how the sausage gets made. Mark Rodgers doesn't have those issues. He doesn't have those burdens. He doesn't have those potential factors that could affect his ability to drive the hardest possible bargain he can for Russell Wilson. Look at what he gets. These teams, 5-year, 6-year, 10-year extensions, 4 years, bare minimum. And it's always market value. After the first 3 years of Russell Wilson's career, going into the 2012, 13, 14, 15 season, right?
Yeah.
What did he get? Market value.
Yeah.
Next time around, 2019, going into the last year of that extension, that 4-year extension, what did he get? Market value, $35 million, more than anybody else. So what's coming? There's 3 years left on his contract. Now, the pattern would be that it's going to come 2 years from now. I think it's going to happen next year. I think next year is the up or out moment where the Seahawks and Rodgers get together, whether the Seahawks want to or not, and the conversation is going to be, we want this guy to be the highest paid quarterback in football, or he wants to move on.
Yeah.
And I think that comes next year.
Right.
And the Seahawks are going to have to decide how much money do we want to invest in the quarterback position, remembering that they got to the Super Bowl back-to-back years with what, Chris? A third-round rookie
contract,
deal at quarterback.
Right, and we've seen a lot of other quarterbacks go to the Super Bowl and rookie contracts too here the last, few years. So it's a real thing. And again, let's not forget, we talked about it this spring. No, it's true. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks called the Cleveland Browns a few years ago and tried to get Russell Wilson for the number 1 pick. So, this is a weird quarterback franchise marriage here. It always has been. It really has been that way. And, Mike, your point about the agent thing is very real. I'm glad you brought that up. It is. Again, I had a guy like Tom Condon, who was a major power player, right? Teams couldn't mess with Tom Condon. They couldn't mess with him as it pertained to me because they'd go, well, wait, he's got 2 other superstars on our team, and he can make life really hard on us the next time if we screw over Chris Sims or do that. That's why you want a great agent. Now, superstars sometimes don't need that because they can just, be on their own. But
the flip side of it is if you decide to go scorched earth, if Condon would go scorched earth on behalf of his one superstar or one of his superstars, because he does represent many of them, that can come back and bite you with other guys. There's a balance there. There's a sweet spot. Rodgers doesn't have to care about that sweet spot.
No, you're right. You're right about that. Now, the other thing I find interesting about yesterday, and we haven't hit on this, and I don't mind. I hope you don't mind if we go there. But I do. I think we have the Brandon Marshall quotes or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I find those interesting, and let me just preface it first. I find it interesting because, first off, Brandon Marshall doesn't speak like this often. This is not what he does. So he must know something. And he played and went up and played for the Seattle Seahawks at one point. So I would think he's getting this right from the horse's mouth or somebody that is in direct knowledge here.
The DK Metcalf comments from a week or two ago.
Oh, and he was with him too?
Marshall.
That's right. What am I thinking?
With Brandon Marshall.
I forgot that
and remember
was him.
what we said?
Yeah.
Remember what we said?
Right.
All that stuff DK Metcalf's saying, he's only been there 2 seasons. He's not coming to these conclusions on his own. He's not doing historical research on the Seahawks.
Right.
Someone's telling him.
Yeah.
And it's Russ that's telling him. So here's what Brandon Marshall said yesterday on First Things First on FS1. Russell Wilson is beyond frustrated. I think Russell Wilson is trying to figure out how to move on in a classy way. I know they don't believe in Russ. I think Russ wants to stay. Think about it. I know they don't believe in Russ. I think Russ wants to stay there, but he knows Pete Carroll is going to continue to give him the runaround, and I just think it's getting to a point where Russ just doesn't believe. Yeesh. Wow. So that's where we are.
Yeah.
It's an avalanche of PR that is putting the Seahawks in a corner to the point where they got to say something at some point, Chris. They just can't keep their head down and keep moving. They got to say something.
Yeah, probably. They do. I mean, it's gotten to a point now, yes, it's going to be talked about all morning on all talk shows and things like that. I'll say this. Brandon, I'm sure, has very good knowledge of the situation, just like we mentioned. There's just too many dots to connect there to think not. And like we said, he's not really this guy that tries to be Johnny, newsbreaker. So that would tell me he really knows this. The part I find interesting is, the organization doesn't believe in him either, or that whatever that quote was, similar to that. I don't know if I buy that they don't believe in Russ. I don't believe they buy into playing through the quarterback and really doing that.
Right.
That plays it. Yes, that's the point. And that's the issue. And I think that's where Russell Wilson's trying to have a little bit of a culture war. And that's where it's also going to be interesting with Shane Waldron coming to town from the Rams, who, yes, it sounds like Russ had some say in that, but Shane's a lot like the guys they've had. I mean, yeah, okay, he does it a little different way because of the McVay thing and all that, but it's still run and bootlegs and play action. And I don't know about the drop back pass game. To me, that's one of the question marks of the Rams offense. Is it McVay? Is it Jared Goff? I think it's a little bit of both. I'd like to see more there. So I'm interested to see how that plays out and how Shane Waldron can really impress himself, upon Russell Wilson too.
And again, this is all part of the one more year, I believe. I don't think they're going to trade him now. They definitely wouldn't trade him. Well, I can't say definitely about anything. Who the hell knows? They'd take a $39 million cap charge if they trade him before June 1. They could hold him until after June 1 because, there's not going to be an offseason program anyway. I mean, they could do a tentative deal to be effective after June 1, and he could go spend March, April, and May working out with his future teammates on their own away from team facility and prepare for the season that way. There's all sorts of things you can do in this new world that we live in. But I think it's more likely that next year there would be a trade. And the one team, when you look at how the planets are lining up in Dallas, and you got one more year with Dak Prescott, and you got a $37 million franchise tag for this year, and next year it goes up 44%. It's $53 million plus if they wanted to tag him again next year. I think the Cowboys are just now. PointsBet disagrees. They put the odds together, and this is fascinating to me that the team. Do we have the full screen there? The team that apparently is at the top of the list is the Los Angeles Rams, which tells me that if he's not in Seattle, okay, that tells me. Oh, Las Vegas.
Yeah,
I saw LAR. I thought that was Los Angeles Rams. It's LVR, Pete. LVR. Maybe Pete is a cat. LVR. So plus 450 that he'd play for the Raiders. I don't know that he'd want to deal with John Gruden, but at least John Gruden would be able to look him in the eye without standing on a stepladder. But sorry, but look, Dallas is there too at plus 650. Jacksonville plus 750. I guess the speculation is he'd be traded for the first overall pick in the draft. I don't see that either.
No,
I think that these are premature because I think next year is the year.
Well,
I think it happens next year.
What I would
if
think,
at all.
Well, if at all, you're right. I don't see it happening this year either. I don't. You're right. Too many weird circumstances with this offseason and everything like that too. And I certainly don't think I'd want to get rid of Russell Wilson right now if I'm the Seattle Seahawks. They're very close. They're close as a football team. I think in a lot of ways they are. Yeah, the way their defense played in the last half of the year, I think there's a lot of good pieces in place here to where I wouldn't want to abandon ship on where we are right now. No, it's not perfect, but I look at them in a pretty good spot overall. Yeah, I don't think they're that far off.
Now, let me just say this before we take a break. If this truly is part of a concerted effort engineered by Russell Wilson to force the Seahawks to do something sooner than later. Number one, it's brilliant because it's not coming off as being engineered. But, we mentioned Brandon Marshall. I think Russell's smart enough to know that if you load up Brandon Marshall with some of this stuff,
he'll
he's
unload
going to go
it.
say something.
Right.
He's going to go say something. And I think the guy to watch next is Jamal Adams. I think once Jamal Adams starts weighing in, I'm not going to sign an extension until I know where Russell's going to be. Once we hear that, that tells me that Jamal's been recruited to join the effort as well. So, look, the offseason was going to be compelling without this story hitting full boil now. Where the Seahawks go from here still could push it to full boil. It could get to the point where it's untenable. It could get to the point where even though next year makes more sense, they've got to do something now. And the bottom line is, look, what happened? I don't think it's a coincidence that the Lock and Fora blurb comes out Monday night, and then the next day Russell Wilson's on Dan Patrick bearing his soul about the things that he wants in a way that, frankly, Chris, we've never heard a quarterback talk.
Right. No, I know. It's I don't think it's, a coincidence either. I don't. I think Russell's too tactical and smart. He understands how to answer all the questions. We know that. We've seen it firsthand. I mean, he's very good that way. And I think, yes, this is a message that he intended to, shoot up into the sky so the Seattle Seahawks and the rest of the country could read it and try to talk about it and put the pressure on the Seattle Seahawks.
And that, Aaron Rodgers, is how you go about sending a message to the team if you want to send a message to the team.
Well, why was that any better? Tell me what we're talking about it, and now it's an off-season issue, so that's better? I mean, I don't – okay.
I'm just saying if you want to send a message to the team, just send a message to the team.
He does. He says it blatant. It's flat out. We didn't have energy on the sideline today. I mean, what's wrong with that? It's flat out. It doesn't get any more freaking flat out than that.
But Chris, you're proving my point. When he said in 2016, we didn't have energy on the sideline today, and I say he's taking a shot at Mike McCarthy, he says, don't waste your time reading that crap that guy writes.
Well, he's not going to let you pit it against that.
That's my point.
No, he's not going to let you pit it against that.
Thank you, Russell Wilson.
We'll be back to talk to
Seattle
finish this
Seahawks.
segment after this.
Our longest first segment ever at 40 minutes. We'll be back with more PFT Live right after this.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.